For example, if there are 60 grains per square inch on a photo micrograph of a metal at 200 magnification, what is the ASTM grain size number? Right? So now this time, maybe they had only a fixed lens microscope where they had only 200x. They did not have x. If it is our microscope, we can see the same image at 100 also. But suppose there was a microscope where the 100 magnification lens is not working very properly. So we have done a microscopy at 200 magnification. So now you have that image, and in 1 square inch we have counted 60 grains. So now what would be the ASTM grain size number? So first you have to think that if you have gone from 100 magnification to 200 magnification, then are you seeing more grains or less grains? Think. You have magnified your normal image 100 times. So you see some number of grains. Now we have magnified it 200 times. So you will see more or less? Yes, you are very right. You will see less number of grains. So this is the first thing, that when you see it at 200 magnification compared to 100 magnification, then you see less number of grains. So if I am seeing 60 grains here, then the actual number of grains will be more than this at 100. Agreed? At 200 magnification, we are seeing 60 grains in a square inch. So at 100 magnification, we will see more grains than this. So should we multiply it by 2? The ratio of 200 to 100 is 2. So should we multiply it by 2? And we say that the capital N is equal to 60 times 2, which is 120. Let us see. You see, the thing is that your equation is 2 raised to n, right? 2 raised to n. So it is a power of 2. Therefore, you take the ratio 200 by 100, right? That we will see more, but you square it and then use it. That's it. Right? Because the equation is capital N is equal to 2 raised to n minus 1. So it is a power of 2. Therefore, you don't take simply the magnification ratio 200 by 100, but you square it and then use it. So that is the only trick. 200 by 100 square multiply. So you see that capital N is equal to 240. Then n is equal to 2 raised to n minus 1. You again take the log, again find the number. If the number is 8.91, this is roughly 9 grains. ASTM grain size number 9, or you can leave it at 8.91 and so on, right? So this rule that there will be more grains at 100 compared to 200, it is just the magnification thing and so on. So now you have done two quantifiable measurements, right? You can find the grain size number and you can find the average grain diameter. For average grain diameter, we are not doing any examples right now, and we will move to the next topic. But now we can take a quick break if you want. I will pause for now, and we will try to do a mental break for you, and then we will continue. So I'm taking a small pause. Welcome back from the break. So first, a small mental break. You know that when we want to laugh about some people, we talk of Sardarjis, but it is not that we are against Sardarjis or something. But a Sardarji went to a doctor, and both his ears had a small burn marks there. You know, burn. They were burnt. So he was in a lot of pain, and he went to the doctor. The doctor was, of course, doing the bandage and so on, applying some medicine and doing the bandage. But he was very surprised that, doctor, this is a Sardarji. This is the first time somebody has come to me with a burnt ear. You see, your hand is burnt, your foot is burnt, your body is burnt. Only your ear is burnt. So I am very surprised. How did this happen? Sardarji said that, you see, I was ironing my clothes. You know, iron. You know, dry cleaning and so on. So there is an iron stand, there is a hot iron, and you press the clothes. So he was saying, I was pressing my clothes, I was ironing my clothes, and somebody suddenly called. So by mistake, instead of the phone, I just brought the iron to my ears. So now, the doctor, this is a very serious thing, but He started smiling and so on, but then he said that, doctor, okay, this accident happened, but why is your other ear also burnt? He said that after I put down the iron, that fool of a person called me again. Over. The joke is over. We will talk of the course now. So, okay, now we have done the microscopy business. Now there will be just some description of some higher level microscopes. You see, the normal microscope is called an optical microscope. And if you go to the material science properties of materials lab, then on the tables in the main lab, you will see several of them. These are normal optical microscopes. They could be a few thousand reals each. But there will be a fixed lens system there. Only 2 or 3 lenses, maybe 100, 200, 300, 400 in one microscope. Of course, they can be connected to a computer if you like. If you had done the experiment, then you would see that there is a microscope room also with closed door and so on. That microscope inside is a digital optical microscope. So now it is digitalized and it is directly hooked up to a computer, and inside the computer there is a very costly software which directly converts all the images and so on and so forth. And this whole thing I told you is not a few thousand reals, it is 40-50,000 reals, and that was several years ago. So by now maybe it is more than 50,000 Omani reals, which is very so now normal microscope, optical microscope, goes from 100 to 200, 300, 400 magnification. The one we have can easily go to 1000 magnification, which is very, very big. But if we want to go to 2000, 3000, 4000 magnification, we want to see much, much finer details inside each grain. Then there is something called a scanning electron microscope. A scanning electron microscope. I am not going to talk too much about it, but the name is that, you see, it does not use light, it uses electrons, right? There is something called backscattered electrons and secondary backscattered electrons. So I am not going to go into the complete physics of it, but you know that light waves have a certain wavelength. But electrons are not even nanometers, right? Nanometers are diameter size and radius size. So they are hundreds of times smaller than these, right? So if electrons can be ejected and if electrons can be bombarded onto the metal that we want, and these bombarded electrons reflect, and there is some system which can feel or find an image with the help of these electrons, then they are very, very, very short size. So we can see images which we will never see inside a digital microscope. So this is a scanning electron microscope, right? And the sample preparation for them is also very special. We take a much thinner sample in this case compared to normal microscope, and there are other types of methods by which we do the grinding and polishing and coating of this. Here they are usually coated also by a certain metal, and then we sometimes they are gold coated, right? And they are very costly samples, right? So we have special machines by which we prepare the samples for an SEM, scanning electron microscope, and then we have there. I am just showing you a photograph here. This is an actual photograph. This is a big desk. This is like a dining table of 6 people or 8 people. It's a very big one. And this thing is the whole scanning electron microscope, a very complicated big structure. But because we are talking of electrons and so on being used here, so a temperature difference of 1/100th part of a degree, 1 degree Celsius, 100th part of a degree of Celsius, even that temperature difference can really disturb all the electrons and so on. So there is a very huge cooling system, a nitrogen gas cooling system inside, which is connected to all this system. And there is a perfect vacuum system, because inside the machine we want perfect vacuum when electrons are bombarded. We don't want any particles of air and so on. You see, electrons are very small. So even if there are a few particles or molecules of air, then they are hundreds of times bigger than the electrons. If the electrons hit them, then they will scatter at some very different angles. So we want a perfect vacuum. So inside here, there is a very high strength vacuum system and a very powerful cooling system. And then all of this. And of course, then there is the high cost software and the computing system. This is a dedicated computer only for this machine and so forth. So this is the scanning electron microscope. In our mechanical engineering department, in the properties of materials lab, you will see another door where SEM is there, and this is very special room. It is always locked. Only special people can go inside it, and it is divided into two chambers. If there is even a small amount of dust in the room, that can affect the electrons and their movement. So before we go into the main room, we take off our shoes, we wash our hands and everything, we put on only special shoe masks and so on, and then enter into the main SEM room, which is completely dirt free. They are called clean rooms, especially clean rooms. And in the rest of the department, the cooling, the AC can be turned off at 11 midnight, near midnight, and turned off. But here 24 hours AC will be there, and there will be more than one ACs, because the temperature has to be completely always maintained and so on, right? So this is electron microscope. Here I'm just showing you a very quick schematic diagram, but again I don't want to really for you to study in detail, but just there is an electron gun, and there is a system of lenses. You can see first condenser lens and second condenser lens and final condenser lens and so on. So the electron gun produces an electron beam which goes through these system of lenses and lenses and lenses, and this is your specimen. So it hits the specimen, and after hitting scattered electrons, back scattered electrons and so on, then there is an electron collection system, and that electron collection system goes to signal amplifiers, and then there is the whole system of display and magnification and so forth, right? So this whole thing, and there is a vacuum system, there is a cooling system, there is an electron gun system. So this is a very costly system, but after all this, after everything happens, it goes to our system of magnification and so on, right? Our system of magnification and so on, and here you can see it, and of course you can take hundreds of different pictures at different things and so on. So this is scanning electron. You see, they can go from 15 magnification to 100,000 magnification. This is unbelievable. I told you even at 10,000 or 20,000 magnification, we can see a lot. And the resolution in nanometers is roughly 5 nanometers. We can see at 5 nanometers and so on. And the grain boundaries, you don't know, but intergranular grain boundary and transgranular grain boundary and a lot of other things, we can see all of that under this type of scope. And we are showing you some images. We took a piece of material that was fractured, right? We took the, say, tensile test, fractured it, or we took the impact test and fractured it. And from the fractured surface, we take a very small piece, and then we see how the fracture actually happened. And here we can see the different grains, and we can see that the fracture is on the grain boundary, or it is through the grains and so on. So there is a field called fractography. We are doing micrography, photographs at a microscopic level of how fractures happen. So here we are not studying the microstructure of the material, not the grains and grain sizes and so on, but we want to study that how was it fractured? Was it a brittle fracture? Was it a ductile fracture? Was it a mixed mode fracture? And so on. So this is a much higher level of study than simple microscopy. Simple microscopy, which we do by optical microscopes and digital optical microscopes, tells us the grains and grain boundaries and so on, so that we can find the ASTM grain size number or the average grain dia and so forth. Here we want to study how the material was fractured, and by this we can improve the properties of the materials, increase its ductility, increase its other things and so forth.